Qais Akbar Omar's family led a simple, contented life in Kabul, Afghanistan, until their homeland crumbled into violence. They were forced to abandon their home and journey across mountains, deserts, and shattered cities. They faced hunger, fear, and loss, but also the kindness of strangers. Through it all, Omar discovered strength in his family's love and the ancient art of carpet weaving. In A Fort of Nine Towers, Qais Akbar Omar tells his own unforgettable story as a boy growing up amidst the chaos of war-torn Afghanistan. Most books about Afghanistan are written by outsiders, journalists, diplomats, soldiers. This is a rare and exquisitely written account of life in Afghanistan by an Afghan. Let's switch on the reading lamp. Hello, I'm Savari, and on this channel, The Reading Lamp, I review books and talk about reading in general. Let's dive straight into today's book. But remember, I never do spoilers, so no worry, just
The cover story.
Qais Akbar Omar was born and brought up in Kabul, Afghanistan. As a child growing up in Afghanistan in the 1980s and 90s, he witnessed tremendous conflict and lived through uncertainty, instability, both on a personal level and on a much larger national level. He was born when Russia and communism ruled over Afghanistan. And as he grew up, the social and political landscape was constantly in flux as the country was dominated first by the communists, then the Mujahideens, then the Taliban, the Americans, and so on. His early years were comparatively idyllic when he lived in a sprawling house built by his grandfather in the 1960s. Over 5 acres of land with more than 60 Macintosh apple trees that his grandfather was very proud of, and a well that never went dry. The compound housed his huge extended family with numerous uncles and aunts and even more cousins. Life in the desert country was never really easy, but as a child he was surrounded and cared for by a loving family and led a sheltered and cozy life. But by the time he was 10, the Mujahideens had ousted the Russians and taken over the running of the country. From there began a saga of constant turmoil where everybody was fighting just to survive and nobody knew when they would lose that fight. The memoir covers about a decade of Omar's life, from the time he was 10 till he was about 20. In chronological terms, that may be a period of 10 years, but it is the equivalent of 10 lifetimes when you think of the things he has seen and lived through. It's an outstanding book, and you could just pick it up right now without any hesitation. But I would like to give you my top 3 reasons for recommending this book and one disclaimer.
Speaking my mind.
Reason number 1 for reading the book: authenticity. I had heard of neither the book nor the author before this. I found it purely by chance. There's a web series on Lionsgate called Kabul. It's about the 2-3 days during which the American and NATO forces withdrew from Afghanistan after the Taliban again came to power in 2021. My husband and I binge watched it. After we finished the series, he asked me, "Do you know of any good non-fiction book about Afghanistan?" What he said next made me think hard. He said, "I want an authentic book about Afghanistan, written by an Afghan. I don't want a book by a Western or outside author. I want to know the feelings and perspectives of a native Afghan." I began looking, and believe me, non-fiction books in English about life in Afghanistan by Afghan writers are not so easy to find. Books like Khalid Hosseini's Kite Runner or A Thousand Splendid Suns or Nadia Hashimi's novels bring the Afghan experience to life, but they're fiction. The few non-fiction books I came across were more like journalistic reports like Opium Nation by Fariba Nawa. A Fort of Nine Towers is unique in that it is written by an Afghan and it is completely factual, an account of his life and experiences as an Afghan living in Afghanistan and of the Afghan culture as a whole. You get the inside story, not from a politician or a historian, but from someone who was just an ordinary Afghan boy slash teen doing his best to survive. It counters the usual portrayal of Afghanistan as a war-torn country only and shows you Afghan life, poetry, kite flying, carpet weaving, family traditions, and the kindness of strangers. And what makes it even better is reason number two, the exquisite writing of Qais Akbar Omar. This is actually the most important point. Omar wrote the book when he was about 30. He writes about grown up things with the innocence of a child. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing childish about the writing. It's mature and composed. What strikes you as you read the book is that it's written the way the world must have looked to the author at each of those points in time. The POV changes from that of a 10-year-old to an 11-year-old, a 15-year-old, and so on. The personality, the style is that of the adult author, and the same throughout the book. But you can literally feel the author growing up through the book. And it is not an artificial, calculated effect. Omar has simply documented his observations and emotions the way he recalls them. It is one of the most honest coming of age stories I've ever read. What is also impressive is his command over language. The descriptions are vivid and captivating. It's like you're actually looking out through his eyes. The writing is flawless. There's a rhythm, a natural flow to it that will make you very reluctant to put the book down until you finish reading it. Reason number three is the balance in the book. Omar skillfully walks the tightrope between depressing facts and natural optimism, adversity and the resilience of the human spirit, unspeakable cruelty and kindness and brotherhood. It's the perfect representation of an imperfect world. Of course, it's the story of a war-torn, strife-ridden country, so there are more lows than highs, and the lows are worse than you can imagine. But he balances them in his writing with an intrinsically positive disposition and subtle wit. I unexpectedly found myself laughing in places. More often than not, that laughter is tinged with sadness or outrage, but still, he has the ability to bring lightness to a story that is filled with darkness of all kinds. Which is why I believe that had I not read this book, I would have been deprived of a treasure. Omar is 42 years old now. He's written one more book called Shakespeare in Kabul, again based on his own experiences about being a part of the first performance of Shakespeare's Love's Labour's Lost in Afghanistan in 2005. I think I will read that one too. But based on this book, I think he's someone who should be writing much more. And if he does, it will be something to look forward to. Which brings me to the question of, do I recommend reading this book? Yes, I do. I think this is one of those unmissable books that a person would regret not reading. But here's the disclaimer. Read at your own risk. In one of my book clubs with a few close friends, when it was my turn to nominate a book, I nominated The Last Girl by Nadia Murad. It's a memoir of her ordeal at the hands of the extremists as a Yazidi girl in Iraq. I got a lot of flack from everyone later for recommending what they all said was a depressing book. Someone asked me, how can you read non-fiction that is so disturbing when you dislike reading fiction with blood and gore and violence? I have thought long and hard about this and come to this conclusion. Violent fiction is easier to dismiss by saying, forget it, it's imaginary. Still, I don't like reading it or watching gory movies because if it's imaginary, why should I imagine something that makes me feel bad? Fiction should make me feel more enriched, better, happier than real life. You cannot dismiss unpleasant non-fiction because you know it's true. And a lot of times I do avoid reading third person accounts or true crime stories that are violent, depressing, or feel bad. Memoirs are a different thing altogether. With memoirs, even if it is hard to read, I feel like this is the story of someone who survived the worst possible circumstances and has the courage to talk about it. I'm not a ghoul who enjoys reading about other people's suffering, but I feel like if they could live through it, the least I should be able to do is read through it. In fact, I feel a kind of moral obligation to read it, like I owe it to them. I don't read every disturbing memoir that I come across, but it's the only kind of book that I feel obliged not to give up on if I start reading it. Do you feel the same way? What kind of a book do you feel obliged to finish once you start reading it? Let me know in the comments. But I do not mean to say that this is a sad, depressing, violent book. At its core, A Fort of Nine Towers is about how people survive the unthinkable. It's about finding hope when everything seems lost. Omar's journey is painful, but it's also inspiring. Qais Akbar Omar himself made me understand my motivation as a non-fiction reader with something he said at the end of the book.
Quote unquote.
I have long carried this load of griefs in the cage of my heart. Now I have given them to you. I hope you are strong enough to hold them. There is my motivation for reading the book. He has carried that load for a very long time. Now it's up to us readers to lighten it by carrying it for a little while. Now let's see how the book fares on our LINEDSCAPE book rating system.
LINEDSCAPE Rating.
Today, all the different parameters are rated 9 or 10. The overall score is 95 over 100, which makes it a solid 5-star book. If you want to know more about my LINEDSCAPE book rating system, follow the link up there right now. Now, it's time to put my thoughts
In a nutshell.
A Fort of Nine Towers is a non-fiction memoir by Qais Akbar Omar. It was published in 2013 by Picador. Omar was just a child when war began to tear his world apart. The story follows his transformation from a carefree, curious little boy into a resilient young man. His writing is evocative and poetic. Despite the horrors he describes, there's beauty in the way he remembers things. His storytelling is vivid, with moments of humor and humanity that make the tragedies hit even harder. Read this 5-star book because it helps you understand Afghanistan not through statistics or headlines, but through the story of a family that lived through it all. The book is 416 pages long. It's available in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle formats. There's no audiobook. The link to buy the book is in the first pinned comment and in the description. Go on and read the book. It's truly one of a kind. If you like this episode, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell icon, and share with your friends and family. This is Asawari signing off for now. Until the next time, have fun under the reading lamp. Switch on, read on.